How do you take a book that's this good and turn it into a movie this bad? Hi, I'm Zach, and welcome to Not Great, Just Terrible, the show where we take a massive steaming dump on terrible movies from the not-so-distant past. Today's subject is Eragon, a fantasy adventure film which came out in 2006. Now, I'm a big fan of the book Eragon, but this movie, well, this is honestly the biggest waste of potential I have ever seen. So the movie starts out with some narration. I guess it fills us in on a bit of what's happening in the world, but it's a sloppy way to do so and doesn't really fit with the film. We also start to meet some characters. We have Eragon, who we can assume is important because the movie's named after him, Arya, Durza, Braum, Galbatorix, and a few others. So Eragon finds a suspicious blue stone that magically appears in the forest. He brings it back to the village and tries to trade it in at the butcher's, but he's told it's the king's property and that he should really put it back where he found it. He also has a stick fight with his cousin Roran, which feels totally out of place and kinda screws with the flow. A bit later, Eragon discovers the blue stone is actually an egg, and when it hatches, a painfully CG dragon pops out. And for some reason, we jump to Arya in a flashback of something we just watched like 5 minutes ago. I mean, come on, I know people suck at short-term memory, but Jesus, that was stupid. We then get some exposition from Braum, and cut to a field where Eragon hucks the dragon into the sky. And here's where we get the first gigantic f*** up the movie makes. Instead of spending the time to actually show Saphira growing and them getting to know each other, as was done in the book, they basically jump cut her growth from wee baby dragon to full-grown murder lizard in about half a scene. This is just dumb. The work was already done for you in the book, and yet this is how you handle it on the big screen? What the hell were you thinking? But yeah, plot, I guess. Braum does more exposition, the butcher narcs on Eragon, and his uncle is killed by the Razak. There's also this rather poorly done flying scene with Eragon and Saphira that left me feeling slightly nauseous and didn't add all that much. With his uncle dead and the king's goons out looking for him, Eragon is left with no choice but to flee with Braum, who expositions some more and fills us in on what the f*** just happened. So it turns out that Braum knows a surprising bit about dragons, almost like he has some first-hand experience. And since Eragon apparently trusts him now, we get another stick fight, which is, I guess, why we had that cousin scene earlier, but it still screws with the tone and the flow of the film. And then another flashback to something I just watched 30 f***ing minutes ago. Do they think we're stupid? Stop flashing back to the film I'm still watching! Anyways, there's this little battle scene with some Urgles, Eragon discovers he can use magic, and there's another f***ing flashback! Stop doing flashbacks! Okay, I'm calm. I'm good. And then, after more exposition, Eragon does the actual riding dragons bit of being a dragon rider, in another scene that makes me almost want to yak. Seriously though, how did they f*** up flying on dragonback this badly? I don't get motion sick to films. I just don't. And yet this film does it to me. I think it's a combination of shaky cam and shooting a bit too close to the characters, but I'm not quite sure. Whatever it is, it just completely ruins the potential grandeur of the flying scenes. Oh yeah, there's Razak again, and Braum is revealed as a former dragon rider, but at this point, the plot is becoming secondary to all the f***ups. So to keep the plot speedrun going, there's this dream scene where Eragon is shown a vision of Arya being held captive. Eragon ignores Braum's advice and flies off into the face of danger to rescue her, resulting in a nasty encounter with Durza the Shade. Braum does a dumb and gets killed, Durza gets not killed, and Saphira saves the day. With Braum dead and Murtagh tagging along, they make their way to the Varden for the climax of the film. Once there, the Varden jam Eragon into a position of authority that feels completely inappropriate for someone who's been a dragon rider for what feels like a week and a half. And then the Urgles come knocking and there's a generic battle. But before our main characters enter the fray, there's this really generic motivational speech of sorts between Eragon and Saphira, which is just... no. Eventually, Durza shows up, and we get some generic and nauseating aerial combat. Saphira is badly hurt, but Eragon manages to properly kill Durza, and that magic stuff from earlier comes back as Eragon manages to heal Saphira's wounds. They reconcile, he meets up with Arya, and everyone lives happily ever after. Or something like that. Oh yeah, and they optimistically set it up for a sequel with a brief scene of King Galbatorix. But that never happened, so... In case I haven't been clear, I am a huge fan of the Inheritance cycle. Paolini writes some excellent stuff, and these books are still a joy to read. I wanted this movie to be good, but my god, they shanked it. Seriously, how do you f*** up this badly? It feels like this script was written by someone who just skimmed the book. Actually, no, they just skimmed the cliff notes. There was so much amazing material to work with in Paolini's novel, but they managed to turn it into the most generic, medievalish fantasy dragon blah that's ever been put to film. This is the sort of movie that deserves a 2.5 hour runtime, but they squash it into an hour 45, and there's no time for the world building and character development this story needs. It just ends up feeling empty, like they're speedrunning the story. This rushed approach also kind of ruins some great characters from the book, like Angela the Herbalist, who is dumbed down from a wonderfully quirky side character to a barely existent plot device. They also spend most of the runtime of the movie shitting all over the golden rule of writing. Show, don't tell. I'm drowning in exposition here, and it just ruins it. People are generally not the smartest, sure, but we can figure some stuff out. You don't need to tell us everything. It's a real shame when a movie adaptation is screwed up this badly. If they'd done this properly and made a good film, we may have ended up with a full set of Inheritance Cycle movies. But after some digging, I think I figured it out. In a recent Reddit AMA, Paulini revealed that he had zero creative input on this film. They barely bothered with consulting him, and the results speak for themselves. I don't know about you, but if I'm writing a movie adaptation for a book, I would probably talk it through with the author. A lot. I originally feared this material might be burned for good, since they screwed up this movie so badly, but there seem to be rumblings about a potential new movie or TV show, so I'm remaining optimistic. Maybe we'll finally have something that does these books justice. So yeah, there's a damn good reason this movie is widely recognized as one of the worst movie adaptations in history. I don't hate it with every fiber of my being like I do with Osmosis Jones, nor is it an unintelligible clusterfuck like Jupiter Ascending, but this film is extremely light on redeeming qualities, so much so that it drops below my usual standard for what is mediocre. Should you watch this film? No. What you should do is read the books or listen to the audiobooks. Those are actually good. Anyways, I've been Zach, and this has been Not Great, Just Terrible. Thanks for watching.